Some visuals in this insert are not suitable for sensitive viewers. This is a lion breeding farm. These lions spend 4 years in captivity until they're big enough to sell as a hunter's trophy. Then they're released into a fenced open area, often baited with food, and the so-called hunt begins. Canned hunting, or captive hunting as it's now called, is legal in South Africa and has grown rapidly. It's no wonder the average price for a male lion trophy is $15,000. A female fetches $7,000, but calls to have this business shut down are growing.
Raising lions in captivity is a very sordid industry. There is huge international condemnation of the captive breeding industry. And I think that what is happening right now is that we're seeing a global backlash against this industry. Now, South Africa earns something like $1.3 billion per year from their tourism industry. And to satisfy the needs of a few captive lion breeding people, what is happening is that the tourists will see South Africa as no longer being such a wonderful wildlife destination.
In March 2014, another NGO, the Campaign Against Canned Hunting, organized the first global protest march. 62 cities around the world participated. The march was held again in 2015.
The lion industry is a whole business model that makes cruelty routine. If people could see the sort of videos of canned lion hunts that we see on a regular basis, they would be horrified. They'd stop paying their taxes until conservation services brought the cruelty to an end.
Adding to these voices is our own House of Parliament. In March 2014, the National Assembly unanimously accepted a motion tabled by the IFP to debate the banning of the practice of canned hunting. Parliament agreed that trophy hunting, which has been accurately described by the Kenyan Democratic Government as a barbaric relic of colonialism, is correct, and believes that African wildlife, and in particular our lion, rhino, and elephant, deserve the highest and most stringent measures of protection. A year later, this debate never happened. But what has happened is the Department of Environmental Affairs recently released their new biodiversity management plan for lions, a plan that will eventually become the blueprint of how South Africa's lions are managed in the future. There is no argument that the African lion is a symbol of majesty and strength, the king of the African bush. The biodiversity management plan puts our lions into 3 categories. The first, are wild lions, found in huge reserves like Kruger National Park and the Kgalagadi Transfrontier Parks. These lions roam freely and there's very little human interference. The next category is managed lions, found in over 45 smaller reserves around the country. Their population numbers and genetic diversity needs to be controlled. And then there's the third category, captive lions. This management plan formally accepts that the African lion can now be farmed, like cows or chickens, on a grand scale and bred purely for making money. But at the same time, it pays no attention to the welfare of lions in captivity.
It's accepted because it exists. It's acknowledged in the plan. However, Department of Environmental Affairs doesn't have the mandate to deal with the welfare issues, but we acknowledged it in the plan.
So by this logic then, because the trade in rhino horn or ivory exists, should we consider farming rhinos and elephants for trophies? And the canned hunting of any wild animal as a new commercial model?
Canned hunting is not only permitted by the South African government, it is very vigorously promoted In fact, when the Australian Parliament was considering whether to ban the import of lion trophies, Edna Malewa's response was to send a letter at diplomatic level to the Australians to beg them not to ban it because she considered hunting so important to South Africa.
In 1999, there were about 1,000 lions in captivity. Today, there are anywhere between 6,000 to 8,000 lions. No one really knows. Breeding is a big part of this business, which involves cubs being removed from their mothers hours after birth, so the lionesses go into estrus quickly and breed again. Cubs are then hand-raised. The cuddling and petting of cubs attracts more than 1 million visitors each year who pay for the privilege. Few realize that in most cases, these cubs are bred for trophy hunting. Lion walks are another attraction generating huge revenues. It then takes 4 years of captivity before lions are old enough to be good for a trophy hunt. The DEA has presented a plan that supports this industry, but washes their hands of any welfare concerns that go with it.
It is something of concern, and I think we should balance that concern with the fact that the industry does provide for job creation to some extent. So it's a trade-off. We have to balance that.
So who is responsible for their welfare?
It's the mandate of the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. We had interaction with them. There are measures in place to address that issue, but the welfare issue is beyond this BMP.
But the NSPCA argue that it is, in fact, their responsibility.
It is their mandate and is also prescribed in other legislation. If you look at a lot of the DEA legislation, it states that they have to create norms and standards for these animals in captivity, but it just hasn't been done. If you look at elephants, norms and standards for elephants in captivity, it's been 5-6 years and it hasn't been finalized. It hasn't been put into law.
And the Department of Agriculture has no regulations in place either. The Animals Protection Act and the Performing Animals Protection Act do not deal specifically with lions, or any captive wild animal for that matter. So it's been left to the industry to regulate itself.
It's a huge problem because welfare is not being considered, especially with wild animals when they become captive animals, because that's when you get extreme levels of welfare concerns and even cruelty occurring.
It's also left to the provinces to set permit conditions, and very little monitoring takes place.
We're busy with incidences where provincial level has actually issued permits completely contravening national acts. So there's a complete lack of communication, and it's the Wild West out there. It's completely uncontrolled.
The South African Predator Breeders Association attempts to represent the interests of lion breeders and farmers, but membership is voluntary. We invited them to tell us about how they ensure the welfare of their lions. They declined to participate in the program, but said that they had submitted their own guidelines to the Department of Agriculture. So this industry has been operating for over a decade with no clear legislation to curb the potential for abuse and cruelty of captive lions. And the world is taking note.
I think the European Union is making moves to ban all captive lion trophies being imported into the European Union, based on, hopefully, based on animal welfare grounds. Now, there is precedent for this because the European Union has also banned all seal products from Canada and Namibia from entering the European Union based on animal welfare and animal cruelty.
Twice the number of captive lion trophies are exported from South Africa as from all other African countries combined. CITES is the international body that controls the trade in endangered species. Lions are listed as Appendix 2, so permits are needed to export any lion or lion parts. According to their records, in 2001, South Africa exported 125 hunting trophies from captive bred lions. In 2010, this had increased to 2,929. But lion trophies are not the only concern for local and international NGOs.
The secondary trade in terms of lion bones and other products such as skins and claws and teeth has stimulated a trade of similar products from wild lion populations across Africa. We know this because in Tanzania, people are now being offered money for their lion bones, and we think this is going to generate a whole new poaching industry for an animal that had never been poached commercially before.
Asia has developed a new appetite for lion bones as a replacement for rare tiger bones. They're rendered down into wines or powders believed to have medicinal healing properties. A lion skeleton fetches between 12,000 and 40,000 rands, but its rendered products are collectively worth around 850,000 rands. In 2011, 55 kilograms of lion bones were legally traded to Asia. In 2012, it had grown to 739 kilograms.
When you have the wrong model, everything goes wrong. What they don't realize is that this is going to cause the extinction of wild lions. So you're going to see a surge of poaching of wild lions for their bones, which is going to rival the poaching frenzy of rhino.
The lion has lost over 80% of its natural habitat. In the past 40 years, their numbers have crashed from over 300,000 to less than 25,000. Through good conservation practices, South Africa's wild lion populations are mostly healthy and stable. But we've seen what happens to a species like the rhino when its value as a dead animal far outstrips its value when alive. The captive industry has no conservation or tourism value and has serious welfare concerns. Its economics are also questionable. It generated less than 1/5% of South Africa's tourism income. But beyond numbers, this is the African lion, king of the bush. Is it acceptable to reduce it to the status of a farm animal? If commerce trumps ethics, then surely it's open season on all wild animals, along with our own humanity.